What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here. This is Criminal Minds, Season 11, Episode 9. And I find it kind of funny. Last week, I know, 2 weeks ago, I said that it was kind of a return to form for Criminal Minds. Just the guy who ended up being the serial killer. It was the type of story that Criminal Minds used to be known for. That the cringe-worthy stuff. It's just like, oh my god, like I can't believe, like making these people stay awake to force them to stay awake to kind of live through what he did, and now they're hallucinating and it's just driving them insane. That's the type of stuff that Criminal Minds used to be known for. In the past couple seasons, it's just been like, oh, this guy kills people and then disposes of their bodies in weird ways. And it hasn't really been like anything shocking aside from Mr. Scratch last season. So, it was a return to form for me. It was what I want to see in Criminal Minds. I want to see a bit of that. Like I can't imagine that. It's just, and then I look on IMDb and reinforcing the concept that critics are idiots. It's the worst rated episode this season. And actually, it was rated worse than any of the Bones episodes this season, and any of the Supergirl, like the first 3 episodes, rated worse than all of those. I'm like, really? Like, you guys are idiots. Just stop rating stuff. Because it was a very good episode. It was that stuff that I want in Criminal Minds, and left on a pretty interesting twist that this guy is actually out there. This guy that killed the main guy, serial killer, killed his daughter, is actually out there, and he's doing it again, which leaves for future stuff, which they don't do very often. I liked it, and then 6.7. It was pretty bad. No, and this week, similar stuff. Once again, returning to that cringeworthy stuff of Criminal Minds, and IMDb 7.8. It was good. Where's the difference? But anyway, that's just, I felt like I needed to get that out there, because if you go on IMDb and look up ratings, half the time they're probably not true. I don't think anything, besides maybe the first 2 episodes of Bones this season, I don't think anything deserves anything above a 7. And in fact, one of the worst ones this season, where a guy killed because of fantasy football, ended up with an 8.0, which is the third highest over the best 2 episodes this season so far. So this kind of tells you where critics' minds go. Like, oh, that was good. Here, 8. I give it an 8. I don't like critics very much. Weird, considering I'm kind of turning into one with all those reviews and stuff. Anyway, on to this episode. Very interesting. Just, once again, the serial killer in it, very creepy, very cringe-worthy, cuts off the faces of his victims, just, and then there's this one scene where they find these DEA agents have gone missing, and I'll get to that story in a second, and everything going on around the serial killer, but he's the one that has them. He has 2 at one time. His name's John, the other one's named Sarah, and he takes John out of the room, and she's like, no, bring him back. And then they, cut to commercial, come back, they find his body, and his face has been cut off. And so, like, the guy opens the door, and it looks like John. He didn't kill me. He let me go. And I'm just like, oh god, no. And sure enough, pulls off the hair, the face falls off. It was really the serial killer. And I'm just like, oh. Like, one, wearing the face of your victim, and 2, the mental torture on this poor girl that just saw her, fellow coworker who she obviously knew. She knew his family, because at one point he was like, think of your wife, think of your kids, trying to help him get through it. And so to see this guy come in wearing his face, and then just the face falls off, and I'm like, oh my god. Oh. Like I said, cringeworthy stuff. And the type of stuff that Criminal Minds used to be known for, that, they used to have cannibals like once a season at least. They used to have people that would just use the bodies of their victims for weird stuff. And over the past couple seasons, like I said, it was just, oh yeah, this serial killer, he kills people and then leaves a mark on their body. Oh yeah, this serial killer, he takes people and then kills them and then dumps their body somewhere. And that's all it was. And not that those type of serial killers don't exist, but you have to have a couple that kind of defines the show, because that's what Criminal Minds kind of has become known for. Is just stuff like this episode, stuff like the last episode, where it's really torturous stuff, and makes you go, ugh, like I don't want to think about being in that situation. So anyway, like I said, serial killer once again this week, very good, very I guess more like Criminal Minds, how it used to be. And then you've got the story on the outside. They still haven't done anything else with the hitmen. They kept on talking about Montolo. That may be the guy that they found in the first episode of this season. I can't really remember who Montolo was, but they kept talking about Montolo's hitmen and how they're using the dark net, scouring for their victims, scouring for the Dirty Dozen, which is Garcia's little bot that search whatever. And so she's still stuck at the BAU. She can't leave because obviously they're searching for her. So there's that. Hotch has decided that he's going to take care of her. But the story for this episode mainly revolves around the NSA and the DEA. They have this joint task force. Obviously, like I said, the DEA agents are the victims here of the serial killer. One has been found dead. The other two were missing. Then obviously that one was killed. And they're looking into it. And the NSA, like one of the guys at the NSA who apparently knows Hotch pretty well, asks him to look into the assistant director of the DEA, because they know there's a mole, and they're not sure who, but they assume that he's the mole. And so Hotch gets over to the cyber division of the DEA where this guy is, and instantly he's like, we need to find out why he's really here. And little bit of back and forth. But this one was a bit more of a mystery, this story. Whereas most of the Criminal Minds, it's like, you have victims, you have a killer, they show the killer, they show who he is, they show what he's doing, and so there's not much of a mystery. It's just trying to figure out maybe why he's doing it, and then the team trying to find him. And that too is what's gotten better, because you're not really sure why he's doing it until the very end. Whereas last season, it was more about trying to find him. Like, you instantly knew why. You just saw certain things. You're like, oh, okay, so that's why he's doing this. And the story was less about the killer and more about, oh, well, we got to find this guy. And so they're like going through finding clues about him. A little bit less interesting than discovering slowly why he's doing what he's doing. But anyway, so the DEA, Hotch is at this cyber task force looking into stuff, get some interesting information about, a bit more about the hitmen. The assistant director of the DEA is like, there's this new network that's becoming more popular. That's probably where they are at this point. They probably moved from one network to the other. So you find out more about the dark net and kind of, I guess, how it operates a bit. And so, that's not why Hotch is actually there. And at one point, they have this CI who's a part of this drug ring that the DEA is looking into, the Libertad, I believe their name was. And he all of a sudden dies in an explosion, like his car explodes. And so Hotch gets a call from the assistant director. I think his name was Kraft, I think. It was something like that, like Kraft. He gets a call from him and says, meet me at the whatever. Hotch is heading out to his truck and kind of stops. He's like, oh, is something bad about to happen? And he turns it on from a distance, which it wasn't as smart as it made. Like, his truck was parked right here, and then there was a car right here, and then Hotch was like in between that car and another truck. If his van goes up, if his FBI van goes up, it's gonna take the car in front of him with it, which is in turn gonna take him out. So I just thought his placement was a little bit weird. Maybe it was just me, but like, I don't know, just this van explodes. Oh well, this car right next to it's gonna be completely fine, Hotch. You can just stand next to that all you want. Anyway, but he turns it on, nothing happens, and just he opens the door, nothing happens. Then he gets in, and you're just like, okay. And then they show Kraft walk into his car, and you're just like, oh, his car's about to explode. He gets in, bullet through the glass, and blood's like all over the glass. You're just like, oh, okay, that's interesting. And so the NSA guy that Hotch knows gets there. They look at the scene. It looks like it's a suicide, but at the same time, they're just like, no, it's not a suicide. He just called Hotch, wanted to talk to him. And so Hotch goes back to the DEA, talks to his assistant, Kraft's assistant, I think. That's who she was. Or she was somebody working there. She was like one of the best analysts that they had. And so she had this drive, this flash drive that Kraft had given her. And they're looking through it. They find out that there's this other serial killer thing that's completely matching up to what you have now. And you just heard about this story from Garcia. She was talking to the team that's in El Paso looking into this. And you just heard about this. Turns out somebody in the NSA had the files like transferred or something to kind of... I couldn't really understand. Pretty much they just had the files. They asked for the files. And so you kind of figure out, okay, so somebody in NSA is the one that is heading up the Libertad, and they're the one that, because you're slowly finding out about all this stuff, the serial killers and the Libertad and blah blah blah. Pretty straightforward stuff, but it was kind of interesting, but it's not the type of stuff that I normally expect to see on Criminal Minds. And overall, it could go somewhere, it might. But it just felt kind of condensed into one episode a little too fast. You got Morgan and Lewis. They go to the farm. Serial killer's there. Bad phone reception, so Morgan has to leave the area while Lewis goes and checks at the neighbors. And then once she gets to the neighbor's house, that's actually the serial killer's house. He tases her. But just as he's about to take her, Morgan shows up, takes him down. That was fairly straightforward and a little bit rushed. And then you've got Hotch, who questions his NSA friend, gets a couple answers that convinces him, okay, he's good. And then, where did you get the information on Kraft? Like, my boss. And so the next scene with Hotch is him sitting down with the NSA director and telling him, look, we found all this information on you. These guys come in, check the pin check his pin, and it's got a flash drive in it. It's just like that. We've got all we need, and they're taking them away. So it was okay, that storyline. I really preferred though the serial killer, just seeing what the story was with him, and just it was a pretty normal story. He grew up as a kid and he was constantly like scanning animals and cutting their heads off. So typical psychopath storyline. But it was interesting to see who this guy was. How was he getting hold? Oh, he's a part of the Libertad. Okay, because that's the one thing that was kind of okay. Is this actually somebody a part of the Libertad, or is this just somebody who is maybe making it look like it's part of all the drug war violence going on? And figuring out all that stuff. And so, how do I rate this I guess I would say it's pretty good. I I think, like I said, the serial killer stuff, it kind of returns to what Criminal Minds is known for, the the kind of shocking, oh my gosh, he's wearing his face, like that type of stuff. That's what Criminal Minds is known for, and that's what has really drawn in, I think, at least for me, um, that's what I believe that has drawn in the crowd that really loves Criminal Minds. Obviously, the other half of the crowd is like girls who just want to see Shamar Moore or Matthew Gray Gubler or Goobler on the screen. So you've got the fans of the show, and then you get the fans of the actors, I guess. Um, but yeah, so I think the fans of the show itself and why they love the show. I think this episode and the last episode are really better representations of what really drew in the crowd to begin with. Seeing this type of stuff and just going, oh my gosh, like these people do. There are people like this out there. You know, that's kind of the intrigue of the show. As far as the stuff going on the outside, I do enjoy the fact that they're not just pushing all the Hitman stuff to the side. Because I said in a review a few weeks ago, I wanted to see more of that. I want to see that become a more prominent storyline because, I mean, that's a big deal. You know, that's something that they've never had hitmen in the show before. They never had assassins in the show before. So it's kind of fun. It's kind of exciting, and but mainly it's something to get the like a backstory going. So it's not just case, 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 case. Oh yeah, the hitman stuff. It's like case, case, hitman stuff with a case, more hitman stuff with the case going on. And I hope that they continue that. I hope it's not just something they completely stop talking about, something they completely stop looking into. Maybe just get a little bit more information about them every single episode. That would be fun. That would be just something to kind of whet our appetite for the moment. And then as far as the DEA NSA stuff, that's, you know, it was interesting, but it felt a little bit rushed. They could have probably split this episode up into two, just to maybe build the suspense, like everything that happens with Kraft, like that's the first episode, and it ends with him, you know, getting shot, and they're just like, well, he committed suicide, and that's it. And that's kind of where the first episode ends, you know, with Hotch like, well, I don't think it was suicide, and then it ends. And then the second episode, you know, you get a little bit more about the serial killer, and then, you know, Hotch is looking into the NSA DEA stuff, because they've had a couple episodes like this before where they're joining with other, you know, task force and stuff like that and looking into it, and just when you think they've discovered the truth, it's like, oh nope, he was framed, and that can be interesting, but in one episode, all this stuff happening, it's too much for one episode. It's too rushed, and so that's why it wasn't as compelling for me. It was just 1 second Kraft is dying, the next second Hotch is accusing his NSA buddy, and then the next second he's capturing the bad guy. So, you know, like I said, it was okay. I did find it a little bit funny though, because, you know, I used to enjoy kid shows a few years ago, more than a few years ago. But there was the appearance by what's her face from Sweet Life on Deck, the red haired woman. She's been a bad guy in like a couple other shows that I watch. But in this one, it's like she's like the second in command of the drug. What's it called? The Libertad, the drug people. She's like second in command. It's just so funny to see her, you know, knowing her from the Sweet Life on Deck and how she's all cheery and chipper, and seeing her be kind of cheery and chipper in this episode, and it turns out, oh, she's actually with the drug people. Huh. It's just, I don't know. For me, it's kind of funny. If you watch Sweet Life on Deck, you may feel the same way. But yeah, you know, okay episode, a little bit too rushed as far as the DEA NSA stuff goes, but once again, second episode in a row, really good serial killer stuff. Really returning back to the old Criminal Minds. So, let me know what you think in the comments down below. If you like this review, like and subscribe. I'll see you at the next review. Peace out.